Hello, welcome to the Video Voters Guide. My name is Amy. I'm a volunteer with the League of Women Voters, and we're here today to ensure voters in the state of Oregon stay informed. I have Secretary of State candidate Sid Leiken with me. We're going to be asking him a few questions. You ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, for starters, just tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to run for this office.
Sure. Well, I'm a fifth generation Oregonian. There's not many of us left, I don't think, anymore. But really, in my public service background, I had the opportunity to serve 10 years as the mayor of the city of Springfield, one of the 10 largest cities in the state, and now I'm on my second term as a Lane County Commissioner. And Lane County, of course, the largest county outside of the Tri-County area and the metro area. And so, and when you look at the office of Secretary of State, it's an executive level office. And that really is my background. And so I think my background really lends itself quite well to what the Secretary of State does. And then when you look at the 5 key areas involved, I've been involved in really all of those key areas in my entire career. So to me, it was a pretty easy step to look at, and we'll see we'll see what happens in May.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about what you could do as Secretary of State to ensure that campaign contributions stay transparent.
Well, I think it's interesting. When I was first elected, clear back in 2000, ORSTAR was not a part of it. I mean, so much of it was hand done and handwritten. I think since ORSTAR's been developed, I think it's done quite well to ensure that there's transparency available. One of the things that I'm looking at, and I think this is where on the Citizen United and how that was put forth, is allowing these super PACs to get involved. And I have a kind of an issue with that, because when you have super PACs involved, what happens is that takes really the narrative that the candidate maybe want to put forward, that takes it completely out of their hands, and allows other individuals to instead put forth tremendous amounts of money and actually control the narrative that should not be involved in the campaign. So those are some things that, and right now with Oregon, we're one of the few states that does not have limits on contributions whatsoever. And frankly, I think that I like the idea of maybe taking a look at limits and also really talking about what can we do. And this is all aspects. This is the private sector, this is the public sector, and really talk about what can we do to make sure that dollars aren't just being thrown at these things where, because I got to tell you, some of these super PACs, when you see these advertisements, they're to the point where they're untruthful. And let's get away from that and really get it in the hands of the public.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the position that the Secretary of State has in overseeing corporations. Would you recommend any changes in this area?
Well, one of the things that I think that I have really enjoyed seeing is that the Secretary of State's office has hired an individual named Ruth Miles, who used to work for Bruce Hanna. She's what's called a small business advocate. And really, the word that I get, and when I talk to different folks out throughout the state, is that she's doing an outstanding job. And what she's doing is she's really advocating the suite of information that's available in the corporations division for anybody who maybe wants to start a new business, expand a new business. I mean, unless you have information available, like if you come from a family of entrepreneurs, sometimes you don't know what to do to get started. What I'd like to do is take that one position, and instead let's increase it and really look at how we can regionalize it. So you have small business advocates in different parts of the region, whether it's Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, Central Oregon, the coast, of course up here in the metro, the Willamette Valley, because industry is different in all parts of the state. So it'd be good to have somebody involved that really understands and also has that information available. So it's not just about UCC filings and business registrations, but instead, what's the suite of information that's available to help a business get started?
Okay, thanks. So I also want you to touch on the fact that the Secretary of State is a member of the State Land Board, and what does that role mean?
Well, it means a lot. And right now, Lane County has sued the state of Oregon. It's a class action suit. Lane County is part of that class, so we have not decided to opt out. We're, in fact, it's my understanding that in June, they're going to start hearing it's going to go to court, and they're going to start hearing opinions from both sides. What that means is right now our state lands are not producing what they should be. And frankly, the way that if you look at what the Elliott State Forest, the Tillamook, the Clatsop State Forest, we can have a sustainable harvest in place. Remember, those dollars primarily go to the Common Education Fund, the Common School Fund in the state of Oregon. And so schools in our state are the ones that are being left out. What we could do is we could take a lot of what the state of Washington has done. They have what's called a DR trust, and it's the state lands. They have a sustained yield harvest on those trust lands. And all groups, environmentalists, the private sector, the public sector, have all come together into an agreement. So the harvest of those dollars going into their common education funds, why their schools, I think overall, are in better shape than our schools. And so if we can make that work, I think, and remember, we have environmental capacities, environmental pieces already built in. So you have to go by what the practice is already set up. But let's make that work, and so it's going to be very important going forward. The other is the State Land Board also oversees all navigable waterways in the state of Oregon. That includes our ports. And so how can we make sure that the Port of Portland is working? Right now, that container business at the port is really in, most of us call it a disaster right now. So we have companies in Oregon that are shipping their products by truck to Tacoma, to Port of Oakland, where they could be having a more efficient way and making sure they're coming out of the Port of Portland.
Thank you. So with the last couple minutes, let's talk a little bit about what you might imagine will be some controversial decisions you'll have to make in this office, and what might be some hard choices.
You know, I think it's one of those things, and this is where I think my background comes into play. When you're more of an executive level position, the buck stops with me. And I'm not on a legislative committee or something like that. It really does. You're primarily the decision maker. It could be a budgetary issue. Right now, motor voter is just getting started. What does this mean for county clerks throughout the state? Frankly, I didn't think the legislature funded the county clerks fully the way they should have been, because the clerks are doing the heavy lifting here. And so while I think all of us in county government appreciate dollars coming from the state legislature back to the clerks, really I think it's my guess is at this point in time, you're going to hear from the clerks and say, we did not receive enough to make this work. The bucks need to be worked out, obviously. And I think going forward, we just need to make sure we take a look at that. And that's really in bringing all of our partners together, and not suggesting that the Secretary of State is just, we're just a primary office here, we're just one. But let's work with our county partners, let's work with our community partners to make sure that things work and work efficiently and effectively for all Oregonians. So I think because of my background, I'm used to making these decisions. I feel like that by having the ability to bring community leaders together and to talk about what can we do to make improvements, I feel like that we can probably start off on what I call a really good foot going forward.
Okay, thank you. So we have just a little bit of time left. Are there any other issues that you'd like to talk about?
I think I think I've covered most of what I wanted to cover, and to me, the Secretary of State's office is such an important office. It's independent of the governor, obviously, but more than that, I believe that what is entailed can be so beneficial to all Oregonians. And to me, from my perspective as a nonpartisan, I'm really not looking at if I have access to grind or anything else. I'm really looking at how can we make this office efficient and effective for all Oregonians, and let's cut out the urban-rural divide, and let's make sure that things work for everybody.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. Again, this is the Video Voters Guide. My name is Amy. I'm a volunteer with the League of Women Voters. Remember, the Oregon primary is on May 17th. The last day to register to vote is April 26th. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.